It's a mucking word.
Yeah.
Got You Covered, a true real estate podcast. We are an office of realtors that managed to learn from the best with the worst teaching techniques. However, we survived with stories and lessons to tell. The goal is to help skip the pitfalls while enjoying the laughs and lessons learned. So no matter the real estate woe, we got you covered.
Welcome to Got You Covered, a true real estate podcast. I'm your host, Virginia Ann Prazak, and today we have your first guest, which is Camber Henson. And Camber is on the show today because in thinking of what these podcast was going to be about and all the things, as we said, it was from those that we've learned from. And we introduced that we learned from Steve, my dad. He'd been doing this a long time. And so it's really neat with Camber how full circle things came, because this whole podcast scene came from her store, and the paint colors and the flooring came from after we met like a few months later. I conned her into remodeling the building when we had a flood. And it's full circle because randomly Dad told me he met this like redhead that I needed to meet, and he can't remember names. And he was like, it's like Amber with some other letter in it. And so when I met her, she had remodeled this house, and I was like, oh my God, I think you might be the redheaded Amber something. And then she had an open house, and we realized she was. So it only seemed appropriate for the first guest to be the Camber.
What?
And so for the learning portion of the podcast, I was thinking, since you have had so many hats, first, if you would tell us that at the ripe young age of 20-something, all of the, since I've known you in the last few years, what all have you done?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so when I remember vividly when you called me on the phone and my kids were screaming in the background, and I was like, she said I was cool, and I think that she's way cooler. And I feel like the first time we talked, we just kind of hit it off. We met, and you showed the house to some potential clients, and it was good from the start. But Wood Street was the first project that was like, okay, I'm doing this. But it was also 2020, COVID hit, pandemic, and it's like, what are you doing? But yeah, so we took on this project. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, pretty big house, and it was a garage apartment as well. And she just jumped in, started remodeling it.
So when you got that house, it was like completely vintage.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only was it very original to the time it was built, like which was like early 70s, but it was full of stuff. So I actually bought the house and the contents, and it was like a lawyer sold it for the man who had passed away. And so we actually found like a lot of really cool stuff in the house,
And then
hauled out a lot of trash.
Yeah. And then decided to do that in a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. So every time we would go to, Lowe's, Home Depot, we've got to go get paint. It's like you're masking up and gloving up, and it's like, are we going to die if we go out today? Some people are, it was just, it was a weird time. It was a very weird time. And it was like unfamiliar territory. So it was even weirder.
And then you decided to do it again and flip another house in hope.
Yeah. So I always say like it was God's timing 100%, the way that everything happened. It's been a dream of mine to do that my whole life. And whenever I graduated school, like I went into working, and it was just always like, this isn't what I want to be doing. But it was just like, as I look back now, I'm like, when the time is right, that's whenever it happens. And so 2020, and that's whenever it was like, okay, now it's time to start. So we flipped that one. It sold. We were 12 days from closing. It fell through. And then it resold or like went under contract. And so that's always like, you know, like, am I supposed to be doing this? This is crazy. And when something falls through, you're like, what have I done? You know, like I made a mistake. I quit my job. Like,
I need this to sell.
I've been working on this for a year. You know, so many people have been here helping me and believing in this dream. And it's like, but no, I did sell, and we sold it to a really awesome couple. Love them. Still talk to them to this day. They actually sold the house later on. They had a lot of equity in it. That was great. That makes you feel good, you know, whenever you pass it along. And then I was like, man, I need a little break. And about a week later, went and looked at another house, put an offer in on it. And I was like, this is even more work. This is an even bigger house. It has even more challenges. And we just jumped right in again.
And then in that, you started a company? Or your company started, because I saw your sign on Wood Street. So you already had the EXT
home. Yes.
And so then that brand, you've created products, and you've also started a shop since.
Yeah, so we had EXT Home, and then a lot of the pieces that were used to stage and just things that I had kind of made to try to make the house feel more unique. People wanted them. You know, they would message me like, hey, do you have this? Like, do you have this? And I'm like, why do all these people think I sell this stuff? But then I'm like, I could, you know. So we started selling home decor, just all kinds of different little things that I would find. I'm like, this is a vibe. Like, I like this. And people, you know, they liked it. We used a lot of it to stage the house. And then when the people bought the house, they bought a lot of the contents as well because they liked it. And yeah, it went full circle. Some of it went to the new project and some of it's in the shop now.
And then now you also have a shop in Hope, Arkansas.
Yes, so that is Downtown Market. Oh gosh, that's a huge thing in and of itself. It's totally different from flipping houses. So we have about 50 to 60 vendors, and yeah, they bring their own items in, and we bring a lot of items in, and it's constantly going. It's a lot of home decor. It's a lot of vintage stuff. We have a lot of vendors who make things and sell them.
So, like, how have you met all of your vendors? Have they approached you? Did you create the space, or did you kind of know them to create the space?
And no. So again, when we were doing all of this, we just say it's like God's timing. So there was another flea market in the area. We got married in January. We jumped into selling the last project that we were on, 410, and sold it. We were remodeling a 6,000 square foot commercial building, looking for 50 vendors. And, you know, we've got 3 kids. We got a puppy in the middle of all of this. We were just crazy. And so they were approaching us like little by little, and just what was a building that was like, how will we ever fill this space? Again, it felt like a dream that was too big to have. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like we have over committed to this. And then they trickled in. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's a list of people who want to come in as well. And it's like, we need more space. You know, what seemed like something so huge, it's like, it's not big enough. But yeah, so the idea behind maybe our next thing that we jump into is to be able to be together and not have to travel so much for Adrian's job. That way I can force him to help me at the market all the time.
Well, in all of the things that you've done with like flipping houses and it seems like you didn't do just a little bit, which I really liked that you jump all in. Like you did in tackling the house. I really liked your approach, which I can't remember, but I remember it reminded me of Young Living Seed to Seal. So like at Young Living, their whole products are that they plant them, they grow them, they bottle them. And so I've actually approached you on fixing a few houses, and you're like, no, I want like everything in the house that you have touched to be better. And so I like am Tommy Boy, and I kind of mix up what it was that you said, but do you kind of remember of what your theory or logic?
People would just be like, oh, so you bought a house and you're flipping. And I'm like, I don't a lot of times people like those flippers, you know, they go in and they put in minimal work and minimal money. I'm like, we're trying to do the opposite of that. Like, if it can be improved, we want to improve it. We want someone to move into this house and be like, this feels like a custom home that was built for us, even though it's not. You know, these are older homes that we're restoring and redoing. But it was like, I want it to be a solid. The stuff you can't see, we want that to be great. But then the stuff that you can see, we want that to be even better. We want it to feel like if you came into this house and you designed it, you would have picked these things too. And that's where like the passionate part, like I enjoy that type of work. And I really enjoyed getting to kind of be creative in a space where it was like, I'm just going to do what I want to do in here. And maybe people will like it. And, you know, they thought it was cool, which is weird to me because I'm like, it's never enough. But yeah, so then after that, we would do, well, I mean, I would just like list it mainly on social media, would get to talk to realtors and make new awesome friends. And everything was staged. So you had the option to buy the house. You had the option to buy the house and some stuff or all the stuff. And that was through like the home and market at the time is what all of the stuff was. And whatever they didn't want, we would, you know, sell in the market. And it was still like majorly discounted, cool pieces.
Yeah. That
And
like
then,
you kept
yeah.
repurposing and reusing.
Yeah. So a lot, like there are some pieces that I still have that every single project we've done, they've been in there. Pick like a few certain pictures, a couple pieces of art that just like are sentimental to me. You can look in pictures like listing photos and like I can find them. And I'm like, that's something that I'm going to hold on to.
So like they asked to buy it, but you just don't sell those. Those
Yeah.
are like your good luck charms to sell.
Yeah, just things that like I don't know, either like I found them on a day which sounds kind of goofy, but like I would find things like on a rough day and it would just be like, let's get this done, like let's get this handled. Like there's a lot of challenges in all this type of work. And those pieces, it was just kind of like that inspiration needed. So I just kind of tucked them
like
away.
you're also like a big fan of books. They're
Yeah.
like coffee table books,
Yeah.
which you're gonna have to help our coffee table game.
Yeah,
Or
I
it's
have
not
some
even a
I can
coffee
bring.
table, but the piece we bought from you needs books.
Yeah.
But yeah, are those some of the things that follow you around?
Oh yeah. So specifically there was a book and it was like a vintage The Human Anatomy. It was by like Tom's, but it was just super cool. And I found it felt like the color scheme that I was going for on the shelf that I used it for. And then I don't know if someone asked me about it and I was just like, no, I don't want to sell that. Or if I maybe like Google imaged it, but it's like a $600 book. And I'm like, I want this book, you know, like it's a cool book. But I can't say that because they're gonna be like, sell that book. Sell that book. It's not
He's
that
like,
cool.
no, what book is this?
Yeah, he's
that is
like,
the
that one's
one
gonna
that I
go
need to sneak
missing.
away.
Yeah.
That the kids colored.
Yeah. No, there are some things, yeah, I'm like, there probably is a scribble mark or two in there. But no, just pieces like that. There was an old picture of, so the first property that I bought was the Corleys. That was their name. And a lot of crazy stuff happened during that time. But there was a picture that I came across, and it was their first business, I guess, that they had done. And it was like a black and white picture, and I framed it, and it's in the shop right now behind the desk on like a wall of like sentimental things.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. This is
Yeah.
something that I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
But I do that a lot. I like to hold on to stuff.
You're like,
I'm a little bit of a hoarder, yeah.
But like, so you mentioned too with the books, like color scheme.
Mhm.
So, okay, so I need to learn this trick. Like when you mentioned having a color scheme
Yeah.
for your books or your room, like I notice you gravitate towards a little bit monochromatic. Like,
Oh, yeah.
But then you do mix in color.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Like, what do you?
Well, I don't know like how to explain it because it's just one of those things like if I come across something, I'm like, that's a vibe. That's just cool. It's just something that I like in my brain. It just kind of like puts itself in its place where
Like
it's
the
going to go.
colors?
Yeah. So I like monochromatic. I think it's a good base. And I think it's something that you're not going to get as tired of. And so for me, I like decor. I like being able to bring things in that are new and move them around. So whenever you have that kind of like clean slate to work with, you can go any way with it. And it's cool. It's fun. It's easier to work with. In my head, it feels calm. And then you can go in with your decor that's kind of like, oh, what is that? That's weird. And I'm like, guess where I found that? You know?
Yeah.
That was some lady's, and it was in the back of her closet. Whenever I was at an estate sale, like I came across it. And they're like,
and then you
okay.
so do you find the piece and revolve around that? Or do you especially with me, I noticed shopping with you, you were very good at, I could tell in your head you already had it. You would work with it if I saw a crazy mirror that was super ugly, but it was turquoise, and I would be like, what about this? And you're like, we could. I can't figure out where to put that.
Yeah.
But I throw some curveballs. I got cut off at my dirt sheep finds because they didn't really bring in together. I'd be like, oh, this has black and gold in it. And you're like, still no.
No. I mean, it's a lot different. Whenever, that's why it was so, I guess, easy. Working in a space where it's I did it, I stage it, I sell it, I'm selling my vision. So it's just things that I've come across. But whenever you're trying to work with someone, it's if they like a piece, you want to work it in, because I think part of making your home or your space yours is bringing in things that you like, things that give you that feeling. So whenever you see them, it reminds you of that cool experience, or just I remember that feeling when I saw that and I liked it. So yeah, I mean, I want to work it in. Sometimes it's that does not match, and it doesn't go. But I mean, you can usually find a place for it.
Yeah, my pink pictures downstairs. Does that make you cringe that you
No.
create this awesome, relaxing, calm space, and then we throw up pink in it?
No, because
in a couple places.
No, because so the office, it is neutral. It's more just a calming environment. So if you want to bring in that crazy pop of color, you can, because it's still going to work in the space.
Because you did the bones that I couldn't muck it up, because you gave me the blank slate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Muck is a word. It's not even a replacement word. That's a legit word, for the record.
Yeah. No,
I think
can't muck up that room.
Yeah. So, but I think I still kind of have too, because I still want you, while you're here today, to help with that, because I have such a hard time with space, in the sense of, are you measuring walls, or do your eyes just literally eyeball and able to see?
Oh, God. Measurements.
Yes, it is a word. Okay, so sorry, squirrel. But yeah, they're Googling, because
So-
it is a legit word. It's just used in the 1950s probably, but
It's a mucking word.
yeah.
Yeah. So no,
That
measurements.
y'all will all use now. But anyway, sidetrack.
I like
but
it.
yeah.
I like it. I really mucking like it.
But
No, I don't measure. I have no concept of size or measure.
oh yeah.
And finally, 3 years later, sold it for $700. That was an expensive mistake. No, I don't measure very well. I kind of see pieces and I'm like, I think that'll work.
Yeah. And that's such a Steveism too. He's education isn't cheap. So when you make a mistake, he would just see it as a learning lesson.
Yeah.
When I'm like, yeah, I think that was a preventable learning lesson, Dad, that there's YouTube and Google. But he's like, yeah, but you're not going to make that mistake again.
Hey, you would think that.
You, in all honesty, have saved a lot, because especially too, if you did that for someone else, if you were helping someone else, then that mistake just got where it cost you for what you were doing.
Too small.
Oh,
And the next project.
So,
but we rolled
his
with it.
theory
We built a
wasn't
shelf.
exact, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
but-
measuring's not my thing for sure.
Yeah. So,
Neither is spelling.
I mean, mine is not design. So
Everyone has their talents and their weaknesses.
I feel like there's the eclectic maximalism look that I see in houses, and then I try to do it, and it looks like I just threw stuff in a room. So it just doesn't. It doesn't.
A lot of times, like, if you
effect.
don't feel like you exceed at something, or if you tell yourself, I'm not good at this, no matter how good it is, you're going to always feel like that, you know, and then someone else comes in and you're like, this is good. Like, it looks good. Like, this looks like
I hired
you.
them.
Well, it looks like pieces that you liked or things that you liked. Like, maybe you got the little base template, but then you brought pieces in that inspired you. And it's your space. That's what you should do.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I'm trying to be encouraging.
I know you are, but I'm like, no, it's like, I almost had a breakdown when I couldn't con you into my house. I was like, what is the number?
I'm sorry, we were going through a lot.
I know, and I was still like, come on.
I know. I remember that day vividly too. I was like, I promise you, it's not because I don't want to work with you, because I do. I'm like, if I take on anything else, my brain is literally gonna explode.
And then I still conned you into it.
Later on, yes, things calm down.
Persistence.
But I always feel so guilty even saying anything about, like, it's chaotic, because I'm like, you thrive in chaos. I'm like, I couldn't even imagine dealing with what you deal with on a daily basis, and
we love it.
The mass amount of stuff. I'm like, my little brain can't do that.
Thanks for joining us. If you're interested in more content like this, make sure to follow us online. We got you covered. Hosted by Raffaele Realtors. Produced by McLean Media. Music by Jody Crump at Studio C. Thanks for listening to Got You Covered, a true real estate podcast.